Welcome to Legacy and Leadership with David McKeen. In my 20 plus years in the business world, I have noticed a common theme amongst all my clients. They're phenomenal leaders who are concerned about leaving a legacy in three main areas: community, family, and financial. So join me as we talk to proven leaders in their fields about their best practices regarding legacy and leadership. Welcome to Legacy and Leadership with David McKeen. I am honored to have Dr. Charles Smith here today. Dr. Smith was born in Montgomery, Alabama, and came to faith in Christ at a young age through the influence of his parents, Charles and Dottie Smith. Though his early ambitions were aimed at business, law, and politics, God redirected his path during college, a time marked by theological study for him, spiritual growth, and a growing conviction that God was calling him into the ministry. I look forward to getting into that. Following that call, Dr. Smith earned his Master's of Divinity from the Southern Baptist Theological Seminary and later completed his PhD in organizational leadership at Southeastern Baptist Theological Seminary in 2020. I'm definitely going to ask you about that. Over the years, he has served in a variety of leadership roles in theological education, most recently as Senior VP for Institutional Relations at Midwestern Baptist Theological Seminary in Spurgeon College. Right. So a mouthful there.
It is a mouthful.
That's a lot. Great, During his tenure at Midwestern, Dr. Smith provided oversight for a broad range of institutional functions, from advancement to enrollment, student life, communications. He also served as an assistant professor of Christian leadership, teaching at the undergraduate level. During his time at Midwestern, the seminary experienced significant growth in enrollment and charitable giving, emerging as one of the fastest growing schools in North America. Wow, that's fantastic. Yeah. So, yeah, absolutely. So on March 21st, 2024, almost 2 years ago, Dr. Smith was unanimously elected as the sixth president of the University of Mobile. And as president, he brings a clear vision for the university's future, one rooted in commitment to Christ-centered education and a desire to multiply kingdom leaders for the glory of God and the good of the world. Amen. So, personally, Dr.
Bless your heart for having to read it. But thank you.
Absolutely. Personally, Dr. Smith is married to Ashley, his high school sweetheart, and together they have three daughters. Yeah. Ellie, Annie, and Susie. So welcome, Dr. Smith. We're glad to have you.
It's an honor to be here.
Absolutely. Yeah, so that's quite a resume. You've been busy.
Apologies for reading.
No. That's quite a resume. So I'd love for our audience to really just begin to understand who you are and kind of where you came from and you know, the impact leadership has had on you professionally growing up. But what was your life like growing up in Montgomery, Alabama?
Yeah, that's a great question. I bet it was like a lot of people's childhood in Mobile. You know, I loved it. You know, it's a lot of my friends. You know, it's vogue to want to move away, and I love Montgomery. I continue to love Montgomery. Stable home. You know, very much just squarely middle class. Grew up in the church and just had a normal, played baseball. Loved school, but kind of wasn't a nerd yet, and just kind of a normal kid. And we loved it. And I tell you, the joy of getting to come back to Alabama. You know, I moved away when I was 18 to Boston, and then Louisville, Kentucky, and then Kansas City. And
so my goodness!
Gone, since I was 18. So to get back, it has been deeply just meaningful to us, and we loved it.
So only 2 years ago, when you took your current role, did you move back to Alabama?
We were in KC.
Okay,
we were rooting for Mahomes and loving that. And we were at the seminary, and God was just working. And you mentioned some of those stats. It was the fastest growing school in the country, and just felt like, hey, we did not want to disrupt that. And the opportunity to come down here was something that was really exciting to us, and prayed through that and haven't looked back. I mean, we love KC. A wonderful place to live. There's no place like home.
Sure.
And so we've enjoyed being back.
Absolutely. I'd love to understand, when was perhaps the first time, if you can think back a little bit, that you saw yourself as a leader growing up?
I would say it was pretty late. I was pretty, and in some ways remained kind of introverted.
Okay.
Sports was my world, and I wasn't God's gift to baseball, but I was just kind of in the middle of the pack,
Right.
and found really my identity there. But looking back on those seasons, I don't think anyone would have looked at me and said that's the leader of the team.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of that was because I was often younger on the team or those things, but I don't look back and think leadership now. Now reflecting, here in middle age, Dad was a civic leader. And watching that, he would bring me along to things. He was super intentional. I can remember even leadership development things. He would bring me as a 8 or 10-year-old.
Really?
And
Wow.
just to kind of observe and watch.
Yeah.
And so I think that put leadership on my radar and kind of in my palate early on. But I certainly didn't see myself that way, and probably was insecure about not being a leader in a lot of ways. I would say it was really grad school. I know that sounds crazy, but most of the time, even if I was in a leadership role, I was doing so begrudgingly in a way. And it was really grad school where I had a lot of people in my life saying, hey, you have some gifts in this area.
Okay.
And you kind of wake up and, at some point you're leading something small, and then, that grows. And, but I don't know that I set out to do it. And people are often surprised because I have a PhD in leadership. But the truth is, I have a PhD in leadership because I was insecure. I remain insecure. And I think healthy leaders are insecure about their leadership.
Yeah. Fascinating.
Not handicapped by that, but they have an appropriate sense of humility, and I need to grow in these areas. And so the PhD for me was, hey, I want to figure this out, or begin to figure out what it looks like to be a good steward of God's call in my life, which of course includes leadership. So yeah, I've loved that opportunity to get to do that. And but yeah, it was. I think a lot of people look at that, maybe senior leaders at some point, and since they were in kindergarten, they wanted to. And that just wasn't my story.
Yeah. I love that the leadership path doesn't have to be linear. It doesn't have to, start when you're young, to your point, right? Yeah. But I also want to really emphasize what you said in that your leadership really, if I may say, was birthed in its infancy by those encouraging you and seeing leadership 100%. Qualities in you.
100%.
Right. And so I think that's so important for us as leaders to call that out into those around us.
That's right. And even as parents.
Right.
That's right. Yeah. I mean, if we're thinking biblically, and we're Christians, if we're thinking biblically, something about being made in the image of God is that we're called to create and be good stewards and cultivate, all those things. And I would translate those things into leadership. I think one of the ways to talk about that. So I think even as a parent, if we're thinking in godly ways, now leadership, look, there's a spectrum there.
Yep.
But at the very least, it's with our God-given gifts, taking initiative for the glory of God and the good of the world. And that could be leading a Bible study. It could be speaking up for others, all sorts of things. But there's this universal call that God's called us to lead. And so, I do think my dad was looking back very intentional to plant that in the minds and hearts of his children. So.
Yeah. So when these people called that leadership out in you, was it scary for you to take those steps because you hadn't really thought of yourself in that way, or was it natural or easy? Or
no, 100%. In fact, my dissertation, me and my mother are the only people that have read my dissertation, but it is called Fear, Faith, and the Fatherhood of God. And it's about leadership. And I wrote that because of my own fear in leadership. And again, I'm not sitting in a closet, not wanting to get out. But I'm convinced meaningful acts of leadership, not Nerf leadership where it looks like we're being risky, but meaningful acts of leadership necessitate courage. I mean, they're by definition courageous acts. And so if they require courage, that means the presence of fear is there. So absolutely. I would argue most people either don't lead or lead in dysfunctional ways because of fear and anxiety. And not to nerd out on that, but I believe that because that began in my own, what it's like to step out from the pack a little bit and experience kind of the voice cracking and the sweaty palm. Well, what's happening is you're stepping out of your comfort zone. You're leading. You're taking initiative.
Yep.
And so 100% that was true for me. And there were things that maybe at looking back, I was more naturally gifted at that didn't feel as scary.
Mm-hmm.
But, things like standing up and speaking in front of people, maybe
Right.
just, I just came from something I spoke at, and I still get nervous. I 100% get nervous.
Right.
And I think the wisdom comes in knowing you should probably always be nervous. If you have a sense of the stewardship that God's placed, like you ought to take that seriously. And so it's not a bad thing, but it is a normal thing.
Yeah. And you alluded to this, but I really want to flesh this out even more. What would you say to leaders that are watching this podcast or listening to this podcast? What would you say to them who have not stepped out because of that fear and anxiety?
Yeah. Well, I think I'd want to begin with the presupposition or just the understanding that you were called to lead. Mm-hmm. And I think as someone that's taught, and I've taught leadership. I'm young, but I've taught it for a long time, for undergraduate to graduate to doctoral students, and all of them on that first day, what I ask is, hey, tell me what comes to your mind when you think about the word leadership. And I'll just tell you, after a decade of doing that, the most common answer is kind of not me. That's what the energetic, charismatic person, the person with the microphone.
Right.
But biblically, again, that's what people made in the image of God do. Now, it looks differently. It may look like you're a stay-at-home mom who's faithful with your children.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's leadership. That's cultivation. It may look like you're a CEO of something and everything in between. But I think starting with, hey, this is you. Like I'd want to get your attention and go, this is your calling.
Right.
Now let's talk about what that looks like in your sphere of influence.
Right.
So God has put us all in a particular place at a particular time. And we, if we're thinking biblically, would go, hey, well, what does that mean for what God's calling me to lead?
Mm-hmm.
And I think it takes a lot of shape. So I would begin with, theology and just biblical convictions,
right,
and work backwards to, okay, now that we're there,
mm-hmm.
if you buy that you're called to this,
right,
what does it look like for you to take the first step? Not be Tony Robbins, but that first step. And I think that's where it's fun as somebody like that's developing leaders to be patient, joyful as you invite people to just take that. It's like a parent with a child, like they take the first step. To you, that's a small little baby step. To them, it's a life-altering acceptance of a calling.
Right.
That's really fun. That to me, that's where the fun of leadership development comes in.
Yeah. You could probably quote the chapter and verse and book, but thy word is a lamp unto our feet and a light unto our path, right? And that's to me what you're talking about. I mean, it doesn't say Q beam, right? Like headlight where you can see 75 miles down the road. A lamp usually just gives off enough light. Correct. And that's exactly what you're talking about. Yeah. Right there with leadership. And so your encouragement to them is just take the next step and keep taking the next step as they feel led.
That's 100%. Yeah. So people who know you, who know your gifts, who will challenge you, be patient with you. Yeah, hey, what it look like for me to be a little more faithful in my spirit.
Yeah,
I think that's a big part.
Absolutely, and I think that's so encouraging to me, and I hope our audience really takes that to heart, because one of the reasons I felt called to do this is I think, and I don't want to get into a political discussion, but I think that our world as a whole is starving for good leadership.
Yes, somebody step up and bring clarity. Yeah, that's right. 100% right. In fact, we just did, I just came out of a preview day, and I'm always interested to know what the audience responds to things you're saying. And it's not the goal of the talk, but it gives you a feel of where the room is. And one of the things you get just a lot of parents amening as their prospective students are on our campus is, hey, we are calling your children up and into leadership.
Yep.
They may be as a nurse, it may be as an anesthesiologist, maybe as a worship leader, whatever it is, at a CPA. But we are going to call them to more than a career. Mm-hmm. And that the career is important. God blesses that. That's why we're here.
Right.
There's really more than that.
Yeah.
And there's a void. There's just the world, again, not a political statement. The world has lost its way in a lot of ways. And we sense that. It's not on both sides of the aisle. You kind of look around and go, okay, who's going to lead here? Who's going to bring vision and clarity? And what an opportunity and what a time to be alive as a leader and as a Christian leader.
Yeah. That'll do it for part 1 of this episode. Please join us in a couple of weeks as we drop the second part of this episode. I promise you won't want to miss it.